Hello, everyone. My name is Kavika Smith, as was stated, and I'm a 19-year-old from South Central Los Angeles. I'm a junior at the illustrious Morehouse College, where I'm studying sociology, and I intend on returning back home to California to pursue my master's in public policy and my Juris Doctorate. I'm a young black man who not only the son of a home care union worker, but also the mentee of Supervisor Holly J. Mitchell. And I've been civically engaged since I was 8 years old, beginning with my mother's union, SEIU Local 2015, where I began my civic engagement fighting for home care workers' wages and workers' rights. And I've gone on since then to fight against hair discrimination alongside then Senator Mitchell with the Crown Act, in which I gave a TEDx talk about it. And more recently, I've led in the Smith versus UC Regents case where we demanded that the UC Regents remove the standardized testing requirement from their admissions process, as we showed that historically the SAT, the ACT, and the standardized testing itself has served as a racist barrier that has prevented many Black and other marginalized groups from accessing higher education. And I'm here today to detail two things: my experience with the SAT and my recommendations for educational reparations. As many of you know, Verbum Day High School is a private Jesuit all-male high school located in Watts, where the majority of us are low income and all of us are of color, 70% being Latinx, 30% Black. Growing up, I was told that the SAT was going to determine whether I was going to go to college and which college I'd attend. And when I think back on the day that I ended up taking the SAT, I'm immediately met with this memory of feeling like I wasn't worthy or capable of being in a collegiate environment. And this singular test determined that I would not be eligible for scholarship opportunities despite my academic achievements and having been in need of financial support to afford college. And I can go on and on about the racist implications of this test, but we have heard it all before. Standardized testing is only a layer of the compounded ills that have for ages plagued America's educational system. And I was in my junior year when I decided to finally activate my faith and set out to systematically and systemically change the system, because I was, as in the words of my shero, Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I found myself, in this constant rage because people within my community felt disempowered, and those outside of my community didn't quite understand as to why I was doing what I was doing. And they thought that I was simply asking for a handout when I wasn't. But through it all, I knew that I was doing what was right and what was necessary. And what was right and necessary is that we made higher education accessible for all Black kids. And that I wanted to ensure that being the case by making the college admission process more accessible for Black people who have otherwise been ousted and have had to prove themselves time and time again. And we are currently witnessing the fruit of our labor in that less than a year after removing the testing requirements from the UC system, we have seen the most diverse class of students. And so as we're on this road towards reparation, or as we have this conversation about reparations, we must understand a few things. Reparation looks like, for me personally, reparation looks like universal pre-K for all Black students. We know that exposing youth early on to books, exposing them to education earlier on, heightens their likelihood, or puts them in a position to be better off later on in their life, better off in their educational journey. And so because education has been stripped from Black folks for so long, we must ensure that Black folks have access early on, as early as pre-K. We need to reinvest and begin to invest in freedom schools. And these schools have been looked down upon, but for me, I've experienced them. I have friends who have experienced freedom schools, and freedom schools is honestly a space and a place where we're able to be challenged in terms of social understanding, social knowledge, activism. We're able to engage one another in conversations about culture and engage in one another in terms of academics. And it's better. I've found it more of a safe haven, more of something that is culturally responsive, culturally understanding than my actual school. Another thing in terms of this conversation of reparations, I strongly believe that we need to revisit the property tax laws and the algorithms of how schools are funded. I have friends who went to a school in Los Angeles where they went without paper for 3 months, simply because the school was underfunded. But I also had colleagues or schoolmates, folks that I worked with, that their school had extra funding and their school bought a fountain. And I can only imagine if that money was redirected into a black school where they needed the money. What could that have meant for those black students? And so I think we definitely need to revisit that and make sure that these property tax laws and school funding algorithms are more equitable, making sure that black students are getting what they need. And another thing is funding black students. And so that looks like not only getting us into the UCs, not only getting us into the collegiate environment, but making sure that we see ourselves through this, making sure that black students have a whole wraparound team support system. Because I don't know how to explain it. You get us into the UC system and then drop us off there, and we no longer have access. We're not able to afford it. We're not able to have the access to psychiatrists or therapists. And so we need all of these resources. And ensuring these resources, that is a form of reparation for me, because for so long we have been denied the access to those things. And so we also need to recognize the cultural differences in schools. I have been privileged to attend schools where majority of my teachers were black, but I have friends who they didn't have that privilege. And so their teachers didn't understand where they were coming from when they would come to school and have issues that pertain to a certain upbringing. The teacher wasn't able to meet that student where they were at. And so it began this disconnect and this disengagement within the classroom. And so I think as we talk about reparations, we really need to be intentional about who is educating our students, who are educating the black students in the classrooms. And so we need to also make sure that our expert educators that have the wherewithal, that have the cultural understanding of what it means to be black, of the black experience, they are placed in schools where they're needed the most. And so I think that is the conversation that we need to have. We no longer can talk about or sit back and pontificate and talk about peeling back layers and actually not following through with that. For me, at this point, I believe that we must uproot this current system and do away with it. It has proven to be archaic. It has proven to be anti-black. It has proven to be capitalist. It has shown its head through and through. And so now it's a matter of if and when we're ready, we must reimagine what it means to be free. We must reimagine what it means for reparation, or what it means to actually have reparations, to actualize that, and not to just sit there and pontificate. And with that, I thank you for allowing me this space and this time. Thank you.